Well, hello. Very excited to be joined by a very special guest on the Kaz and Daz show, or as a standalone thing. We will see. You're going to find out in the future. It is, of course, the man behind the GG3x3. It's Mr. Martin Dyan. Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thanks. Very well. You know, it's been incredibly busy. The 3x3 season is upon us right now, but I'm well. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Very glad to have you with us. Now, obviously, you and I, our history goes back a couple of years, actually, doesn't it? With everybody's favourite London-based basketball. Wow, is it everyone's favourite London-based basketball club? The London Lions, who we've both done work with in the past. Well, I commentate for, which I love. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And you do a great job too.
Oh, that's very, very kind. Thank you very much. That'll be in the mail. Now, I say everybody's favourite, but there's a new kid on the blocks, Martin. Would you want to talk us through that real quick?
Oh, for a new London team, yeah.
Yes.
I suppose. I mean, we're not kind of BBL or pro athletes, but we are a new London team, that's for sure. So I'm working with a university called Writtle University College on designing their first ever 3x3, first ever permanent 3x3 courts in the UK. And so I've been working with them for about 6 to 8 months now on those courts. They're actually launching this weekend, depending on when people watch or listen to this. And it's all really, really exciting. And as part of that project, because they're really invested in 3x3, and obviously like I'm massively invested in the game itself, I approached them and asked if they would be willing to support the creation of a new team. So I pulled together a bunch of coaches, very highly experienced, fantastic coaches, and wanted to provide more opportunities for players to play the game. And so now we have London Warriors. There are 2 male teams and 2 female teams. So we actually have 16 players in total. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Now, so obviously follow you on all the social medias. Make sure that you're following Martin on all the social media platforms. And of course, the GG3x3. I've been saying 3-on-3, so I've been saying it wrong my whole life.
It's all good because a lot of people say 3-on-3 or they say 3x3. As long as you're not saying 3x3 because it's not a unit of measurement, 3x3. So it's which I get a lot as well. So as long as you're saying 3-on-3 or 3x3, you're all good.
Oh, we're all good. I saw the root beer legend himself is one of your physical conditioning coaches. Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, Nate Lucas. Yeah, one of the very first coaches I approached to be an S&C coach for the London Warriors. I mean, aside from just being a brilliant S&C coach and highly experienced, Nate brings a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation, and a lot of energy to what he does. And you know, that kind of, to me, that epitomizes what 3x3 is about. You know, it's a new game. It's kind of a bit more experimentation on the court and also off the court as well. So Nate brings a lot of kind of really incredible foundation and kind of like proven thinking, but brings it to a kind of a new way in terms of how we train the teams and what he brings to them. So yeah, had to have Nate on board for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his work. You know.
Yeah, Nate's great, and actually working with him, and then we've obviously got our 2 skills coaches, Afiz, aka Way to Work, and Benji Lawman, B Lawman Training. I mean, both of them, like, absolutely, the 3 of them together are just an incredible force when it comes to getting the guys right. And you know, both the male and female teams. And I'll be very, very fortunate because now we've also got a physio and also a nutritionist, Holly, and a nutritionist called Tilly. I wanted to kind of provide as much opportunity for players and also to get them ready for the summer season too. And so yeah, we've got a proper staff for London Warriors. It's amazing.
This is incredible. So this is a really basic question. I apologize for that, but who do you play? Like, let's look at your women's. You've got 2 women's teams. Where do they play? Who do they play?
So the women's teams are kind of made up of a range of different players. You know, we purposefully didn't go directly to pro players to create a team because the point is to create an opportunity for players that may not have played at whatever level it may be. So you can literally be playing street ball only, and you could have still made the team. So we held secret trials for our first go, and then kind of picked the team. A lot of them are quite seasoned athletes though, and so they've played 5-on-5 a lot. Some are already part of like another 5-on-5 team, like Thames Valley Cavaliers. There's quite a few in the team that play for that squad.
Okay.
And now, really, I mean, the reality is 3x3 or 3-on-3 is very new in the UK.
Yeah.
So aside from the summer season of 3x3, there aren't really teams that you play against. So all of this period, we've only been training for a very short amount of time together. But during this period, they've been playing against themselves, getting them ready. And then the most recent competition we had was Red Bull. And the women's team, one of the women's teams got into the final for that. So we were all, I mean, so for our first outing as London Warriors, to get in the finals was just incredible. I mean, everyone did well. Every single team did superbly during that event. Yeah, it was amazing. So
now, when I think of 3-on-3 in this country, I do genuinely think, Martin Dyan, because well, you've been like my introduction into the sport, really, just through knowing you and knowing what you do. But what is it about 3-on-3 that really has appealed to you, and you've made it such a big focus of, well, all your basketball enterprise?
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason why I first got into it in the first form, which was 4 years ago, and I created the GG3x3 tournament, was because I wanted as many teams as possible to enter. And what I felt like was that just by playing 5-on-5, I wasn't going to give as many opportunities to people to play.
Yeah,
I felt that it would be easier for people to get a team of 3 or 4 with sub to enter an event that I was doing for sentimental reasons in memory of my friends. And I felt like if they had to get 5s together, it would be a lot harder. And also, I felt that if there was an injury or anything like that, it would be difficult, and it would just be really tough for people to enter what is essentially meant to be a really fun, light-hearted, really enjoyable event. And so accessibility was actually the very first thing that I thought of, and that's why I chose 3x3. But also, it is as close to street ball as you can get. When I go to a court and I'll go there and I'll play with my friends, I never expect to play 5-on-5. Like, I'll never go there and be like, right, where's my team of 4? Let's play full court. I mean, mainly that's because post-COVID, I'm like incredibly unfit. But also, like, I'll never go to my home court around the corner from me and be like, oh yeah, we're going to play full court. We're going to have a full court run. We play half court. Like, it's natural. That's what you play. So 3x3 is like as close to the natural game, I feel, as you're going to get. And you play on a half court. You play 2s and 1s, 2s and 1 pointers. You play on one hoop. You take it out of the 3. You play into, like, most games on a half court, when you go to a local court, you're playing to 11 or 21. Well, okay, FIBA 3x3 rules is to 21. You're playing within 10 minutes. Like, normally on, I say, a court, you'd be checking the ball. In FIBA rules, you don't check the ball. So it's like, I mean, there are certain nuances, but it just felt like 3x3 has become an amazing way to engage people generally in the game. And you don't have to play it all the time, and you can just use it as a way of becoming better at 5-on-5. But there are so many benefits in 3x3 to players that I just, I love the game. And it's new. It's like a new form, so it's really cool. It's really exciting. The socials go crazy. It's basically like the 10-minute highlights of a regular 5-on-5 game that would be out for 2 hours. And like, for me, that's just like a kind of Netflix style junkie. I just want to watch those little clips, and that's what 3x3 is. Like, 10 minutes in a game. All right, cool. With injuries or timeouts or whatever it might be, or TV app breaks. Okay, fine. So it lasts 15 minutes. All right, cool. I can spare 15 minutes of my time and watch a game.
Yeah.
And it's intense. Like, it's an intense game. So for spectators as well, it's really enjoyable. So I love running events. I love hosting things, because it's like, okay, cool, we'll watch a game 15 minutes. I'm not going to get bored in 15 minutes watching a game, because there's always something that's going to happen. Yeah. So it's and that's kind of what drew me to it, to be honest, right at the start.
And that's taking you, that enthusiasm, that drive for it is taking you into the Basketball England /GB camp. Did we see you a few years ago? Talk us through that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Well, I mean, I've been running this non-profit platform. So the GG3x3 tournament started as a one-off tournament. It was very small, but people really liked it. They really enjoyed it. And then the day after, everyone was like, "Well, when's the next one?" And I thought, "Oh, gee, like, give me a break." Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm knackered from this first one. But the reality is, like, I really did love it, and that has now evolved over the past 4 years into the UK's largest non-profit platform focusing on 3x3 basketball. So now we're doing like community initiatives, you know, putting nets on rims, like, you know, traveling 200 miles across London just to put some nets on hoops, you know, 76 I think it was overall. And then that was supported by Basketball England and Project Swish, yeah, their grassroots campaign to regenerate courts. So there was that. And then obviously more and more, the more I've been kind of involved in 3x3 basketball, the more opportunities it's provided. So as I mentioned, I'm helping Bristol University create the first ever 3x3 like permanent courts. And so I've kind of had this relationship with Basketball England, you know, from quite early on in terms of, you know, just what I'm doing in the community. But they really see 3x3 as a really great way of engaging people and providing more opportunities for people to play the game. I think that's great. You know, it's going to be in the Olympics this year, in the Commonwealth Games next year. I love the game. Like 5-on-5, NBA, BBL, WBBL, you know, whatever it is, I love the game, right? Like it's the same for a lot of people. And if I can grow the game in this country and provide more opportunities for players, for coaches, for photographers, for media, whoever it is, then we all, you know, we all benefit basically. And I think kind of, you know, Basketball England kind of saw that element of it and what I was doing on the grassroots side of things too, and invited me to the 3x3 camp, and that was an amazing experience. You know, it was great. Fortunately, like, I've got a bit of a relationship with some of the players already, so that was nice. I got to see some, you know, some friends that I know that were playing at the camp, and yeah, I mean, you know, 3x3 is new. You know, 3-on-3 basketball is quite new in the country. And as you know, I've been banging on about 3x3 for ages and ages. And now, you know, I speak to, you know, pro players from other teams around the countries, like different countries, to coaches of like, so I spoke to the coach of the French team, a guy called Kareem, who is a brilliant guy. And before they entered any of the World Tour or the Olympic stuff, I had a really good chat with him as well. And I think, you know, because I just love the game, and because I've researched it, you know, I've got this team now, the London Warriors, because I've been running the GG3x3 tournament. Basketball England were like, "Come over to camp, let's chat." And so we've just been, you know, talking about the Commonwealth Games and talking about players and stuff like that. It's been incredibly exciting, but there's loads more to come. So yeah, it's good. It's really fun.
That's really cool. So was it mainly Basketball England with a view to Birmingham 2022?
2022, yeah. Predominantly, I mean, it's about everything. So it's you know, it's 3x3, it's the game, it's the Commonwealth in particular, but you know, they've got a really close eye on the Commonwealth right now. You know, soon it'll be a year to go. You know, at the end of this month, it'll be a year to go for the Commonwealth. And of course, with what was happening over in Romania and Israel with the under-23s, you know, you know, the game is just naturally going to grow because it's become more mainstream. It's going to be in front of our faces on social media too. And so, you know, I speak to FIBA a fair amount, FIBA 3x3, and talk about what their progression is and what their view is from a global scale too. And yeah, I just, you know, I love it. So if you want to, you know, if anyone wants to chat about it, you know, Basketball England, GB, anyone, you know, I'm happy to talk about it because I think particularly in the UK it will grow massively, and it's going to provide more opportunities for players and anyone involved, sponsors, companies, whoever.
So now that GB men and women have entered into the Europe Cup qualifiers, and we'll get onto how the women did in a couple of moments.
Sure.
When are we going to see a World Tour event held in Britain?
Oh, that's such a good question because we have the facilities, 100%. You know, sometimes it's about making the case and also having the funds in order to do it. You know, it's there is a cost involved in putting on a world tour, and also having the kind of FIBA 3x3 accreditation too. You know, there's some really serious, like, complex branding areas involved as well. So there's stuff to do with marketing, with branding, with who's hosting and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't actually have doubt about it. I would say I don't see any reason why really soon we can't be hosting a World Tour somewhere in the UK.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, realistically,
we've got the facilities.
We held an Olympics like a decade ago. Like,
yeah. But the benefit is about hosting a World Tour. It's like you can literally host it anywhere. So that's why 3x3 is so great. Because you don't have to be indoors. Like I hold the GG3x3 because I hold it. It's a one-day event, and I don't want to risk the weather, right?
Yes, makes sense.
But next week I'll be helping a community centre. Like so, this weekend I'll be at the Bristol University, and those courts are outside. And next week I'll be helping a local community centre in northwest London, hosting their first 3x3 tournament outside. And there's temporary structures that you could create anywhere. Yeah. In the 20, I believe it was 2012. And also some other years too. Some major brands held outdoor games. There was one in Trafalgar Square. They put a 3x. Well, they called it a half court. It wasn't a 3x3 court at that point, but they put half courts out in Trafalgar Square to celebrate basketball and showcase. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why we can't do that.
Absolutely. And so if you've got, we're going to put Mr. 3-on-3. That's you. In charge of a World Tour event in this country or in the British Isles, where would you hold it?
I mean, I would. Oh, that's a really good question. So there's a couple of like thoughts of practice in terms of 3x3. One is kind of like, what's the best showcase, right? So where would you want to host it? So for example, in Paris, they most recently did it kind of, pretty much near the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, it's absolutely iconic. They're also hosting in France in Poitiers, which happens to be like a bit of more of a random location, although there are some amazing buildings there. And I kind of remember going there when I was a kid with my dad randomly. It's very weird. Don't know why we went to Poitiers. It's like some kind of like weird, it was called Futuroscope. So I think they were trying to compare with like Disney, but not in any way whatsoever. Anyway, weird side tangent. So they're hosting it there as well. Now in Canada, for example, in Alberta, they hosted it in a shopping centre. Yeah. And that was amazing. And I would love to host a tournament in a shopping centre. I think I would love to do that.
What about, right? Check this out. Milton Keynes, where the Lions used to play outside John Lewis.
Oh, why not?
Why not?
This is the best thing about it, because the 3x3 court is kind of is a regular lattice court, so it's a specific type of material that they use, and you literally kind of take it up like a jigsaw puzzle. And you take apart the pieces, stack them up, you put them in a box, and then you move it anywhere you want. You've got a decent hoop, a decent court. It's a bit of advertising, some sponsorship. You can literally put a court anywhere. So outside of John Lewis, brilliant. You could do it in Edinburgh. In Edinburgh Square, where the grass is just in front of you could do it in front of the castle. You can in fact do it in the square, just outside the castle, Edinburgh Castle. You could do it in Bournemouth Beach. There's a massive area of the pavilion in Bournemouth Beach that you could host it at. You could literally host it on there, yeah.
I reckon in Carnarvon Castle in North Wales.
Love it.
There we go. Done.
I mean, anything like that, but also I think anything that's going to show kind of like GB or whatever, in its best format, I think it's great. But also quirky type venues are some of the best.
Yeah.
So anything like that. I mean, obviously I'm talking about standard stuff like shopping centres, but in castles, on the end of a pier, I mean, for example, if you just saw this recent one in Romania, Moir, which randomly I've also been to as well as an area, it was like right on the edge. And actually, the basketball ended up going out into the water at one point because it went through some hoardings, and they actually had some speedboats go out to grab the ball, which was hilarious.
That's amazing.
But stuff like that is amazing, and you could do that anywhere. I mean, I think like iconic areas, so like major city venues. I mean, what about one in the Ballroom? In Birmingham. One in the Ballroom shopping centre, I think would be perfect. Trafalgar Square, I think, would be amazing. Piccadilly Circus would be insane. But Liverpool, Edinburgh, major cities, anything like that. I mean, you could literally take it. It would take a lot of doing, but go to the Angel of the North and put a basketball court right in front of the Angel of the North, right? Why not?
Why not?
That's the best thing about it.
See, now I'm super excited for the 2020, let's say 2023 edition of the GG 3-on-3 or 3x3, sorry, GB tour,
Yeah.
where you take it to all these locations.
Hey,
I'm sell it to FIBA.
I'm down. That's you know, that's amazing. I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, there's a lot of tournaments and events around the UK that are growing steadily, and I've been contacted over the past 6 months by 3-4 different people that just want to run events, and they're just like, okay, what's the number of teams? How do I run this event? And I'm like, okay, step by step, it's really, really simple. The reality is you need half court and a hoop. Like, that's it. That is literally it. And you just need, okay, I mean, sure, there's a bit of organization behind that, you know, and there's, you know, you need to like resource quite a few things, but that's it. I mean, and that's the great thing about it. And the more people that do it on the FIBA 3x3 platform, the better, because once we start to get more points as a nation, the higher ranked we will be. So we have greater opportunity in entering various different tournaments and events and become more recognized on a global scale as well, for sure.
So the two reasons that I really wanted to get you involved this week, obviously your LDN Warriors, your London Warriors in particular, looking at your women's team who you're telling us you've already had great success.
Yeah.
I mean, more to come.
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. I mean, we haven't been training that long, but I mean, first of all, we call ourselves London Warriors family, because if you're at an event where we're at, you will hear us if you haven't seen us. Like, the whole squad just goes crazy at events, and we are shouting at everyone. And you know, we're very respectful of referees and scoring and table officials, but we will also shout and let you know how we feel about things. And that also goes for the opposing teams that are playing against us as well. We had 2 men's teams and 2 women's teams in the most recent Red Bull event. And they did incredibly well. All of the teams did so well. And the women's team, one of the women's teams, because we've got 2, got through all the way through to the finals. And, you know, as our first event, playing and then getting to the finals was just incredible. And, you know, we left that, our coaches kind of gave them, you know, that kind of like debrief afterwards. And it was amazing. It was very much a kind of like heads held high. My line for everyone was, this was just a rehearsal, because there are plenty more events coming up this summer. So a lot more to come. But I wanted to provide as many opportunities for female players as I possibly could, as well as the men. And everyone seems to be loving it, enjoying it, and we're all part of the family, so it's great.
That's awesome. And the second reason, of course, was this weekend's events with GB men and women taking to Romania, where, you know, part of the world where you tell us that you've visited, and well, the women, my goodness, tell us what you made of it.
I tell you what, I mean, bearing in mind that a lot of players have just been playing 5-on-5, for those GB women to come in and pretty much destroy other teams is pretty phenomenal. You know, Eastern European teams, and actually the French as well, to be fair, are fantastic players, and they're quite big, they're quite brutal in some respects. You know, they're really aggressive. But all the women that played this weekend just came out and just absolutely destroyed it. The thing that I found in particular with the female squads, and I noticed this both at camp and also just whilst they were playing in the highlights, is that mentally they are very smart. The GB women are very clever players. And, you know, one of the big things that we try and kind of advocate for, you know, for the London Warriors is ball movement. It's so important when you're playing 3x3 to know your space, to know where your space is, and to play as a team. But you've got to move. You have to move. There's no room to stop and like stand. And, you know, in 5-on-5, okay, you can walk the ball up the court a little bit. If there's maybe a foul, you can look to the ref. In 3x3 basketball, you just don't have that opportunity. And all the female players for GB just like literally came to play and destroy the other players. I mean, the aggression was incredible. Some of the finesse, some of the footwork from some of the players was just absolutely amazing. And they kind of knew where their strengths were. And actually, to be fair, I actually did see that at camp as well. And it's just amazing to see that on an international stage. So yeah, really putting like female ballers from GB on the map, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
If you're not aware of the results already, so GB were in Pool B. They played Hungary, who are they ranked third in Europe or third seed going into this? Pretty highly rated.
Very highly ranked. Yeah.
Yeah,
so the Hungarians are brilliant. Yeah. Sorry, go on, Karen. Yeah.
Sorry, that was a 12-17 win for GB. And then it was a bit of a demolition of Slovakia came next, a 13-21 GB victory. That set up a qualification game, so GB topped their pool. They played the second-ranked team from another pool. That was Belarus, and it was a lot closer, 16-14 the final. So GB, undefeated, they punch their ticket. They're headed to Paris. Now, what is in Paris, Martin? What are they going to find there?
Well, they're going to find some very difficult teams to play against, so that is for sure. Paris, the reason, primarily, I believe the reason why Paris is becoming this kind of hotbed for activity is obviously they're leading towards the Olympics as well for themselves. But they have incredible teams. The French teams are just unbelievable. And as we know, like the culture, the basketball culture is so strong over there. Yeah. And so I believe they just, they're kind of holding it there because the basketball culture just generally is so clever. It is so strong. And I think it's a clever move is what I was going to say by FIBA to have those qualifiers there because they know the culture over there. I mean, like the NBA obviously moved NBA Europe over to Paris as well. God, it seems like everything's going over there.
Yeah. I mean, they've got the Quad tournament as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they've got what is it, K54, right? So yeah. Actually, funny story about that. 2 years ago, I either was going to go to K54 or to the FIBA 3x3 in Amsterdam in the World Tour, and I actually made the call to go to the Amsterdam World Tour, and then like K54, like I just saw like everyone's going, like Jason Tatum's there, Russell Westbrook's there, but the reality is that when I went to the FIBA 3x3 Amsterdam, like it's phenomenal. Like the atmosphere is just incredible. So yeah, the atmosphere is going to be amazing. They're going to face some very, very strong teams. But all of them, Chantel, Shani, Shakila, like Temi, I mean, all of them are so experienced.
Yeah.
As players themselves, both individually for their own teams. And there's former Olympians on that squad too. So they're very used to playing on the international stage as well. And
we've got a WNBA champion in our roster, so
yeah, for sure.
Pretty
and
nice.
And if you saw, Temi's footwork is ridiculous too, and playing down low too. But all of them, there's that element, but there's also just them combined. I actually think they're gonna, hopefully they'll do really well in Paris. Keeping a very, very close eye on that. So definitely.
Now, for me, one thing that gets me really excited about this team is the fact that we've got Shanice Beckford-Norton of, you already know, the London Lions playing. Like,
yeah.
To me, that's so exciting to have WBBL athletes on this stage. Like, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, this is kind of the whole point of 3x3 basketball because it allows players that may not have had an opportunity of playing on a different, on a national team or whatever it might be, and actually gives them the opportunity to do so. But also 3x3 basketball allows for a different type of basketball. It's for players that are also very creative. You don't have a coach in 3x3 basketball whilst they're playing. So if you have a coach there and he's actually coaching the team, you actually get penalized for that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So you need smart players. They sub each other. They don't get, like, the coach doesn't say you need a timeout. Like, they call their timeouts. They sub each other. So it forces you mentally to be smart and great decision makers. But also it allows you the opportunity to, it's not like your coach is going to have a go if you go ISO, because you're allowed to at this point. and so like having Shanice and having her on the team as well is fantastic. But it really does provide an amazing opportunity for players that may not have had that chance before to play. So yeah, it's brilliant seeing her on the squad. Yeah, for sure. And I think from what you see from the photos and the videos and actually her game tape, she looks like she's having fun as well.
And this week, so Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we had GB under 23s action in what is this one called? The League of Nations.
The League of
tournament.
Nations, yes, that's right.
So what can you tell me about the League of Nations?
So it's really just an opportunity, much like the international team that we're playing in Israel, in Romania, to play against one another, and really another chance for kind of nations and kind of international and for countries to get together and provide an opportunity for younger players too. GG3x3 provides both that kind of those levels, if you like, and those age groups, different age groups, to play on a kind of very high level international scale. And so, yeah, both. I mean, it gives it gives another opportunity for unders to go and play. So, you've got the likes of kind of Paige and Abby and Lauren and those guys playing. And then obviously, what's funny is that what I find is that you'll see under 23 players, both the men and the women, and you're like, I can't believe they're under 23. I can't believe this is the League of Nations and they're under 23, because some of them are absolute giants, right?
Wow,
and they're throwing down the men's team, they're throwing down these crazy players, and they're just huge. But I actually really like it. I think it's a fantastic opportunity because as a younger player, loads of energy. There's I spoke to a pro player this week, and I asked him what he thought about 3x3 basketball. And he told me that actually there's an opportunity to have a bit of swag, a bit more swag on the court. Not exactly, no one's going to tell you off for kind of, showing more emotion on the court. And the way that you play, as I mentioned before, is way more kind of in that street ball vibe. So it gives younger opportunities to play, a chance to play there too. So yeah, just another really great example of opportunities for younger players to play on an international scale. And the weather just looks amazing out there. It's incredible.
So GB women played 6 games. They played against France, Israel 2, and the Netherlands. And they picked up 2 victories. They were both over Israel yesterday, 17-14. And on Tuesday, 10-8 over Israel 2. In fact, it might have just been... Was it just Israel? No, it was Israel 2 as well on Wednesday. So, that's awesome. Congratulations on, first time in these competitions getting wins. So, how does that stand GB under 20s or under 23s instead for the future?
I mean, hopefully if any of the players see this, they won't be saying this, but it took them a little bit of time to get into the rhythm of 3x3. They were at camp, and then a couple of weeks later they're thrown into the mix against other teams that are relatively well versed. Netherlands, for example, are just fantastic teams, and any of the others to be fair. But the wins over Israel were actually very surprising, and in terms of just how well they did. But I think later on in the stages, as in after the first day, they got acclimatized to the weather, because it's super hot out there. There's a little bit of wind by the beach in there. I think they were in Tel Aviv, right? So a little bit of wind there. They're getting used to the style of play. I mean, it is different to the 5-on-5 game. There's just no doubt about it. You're constantly moving. You're playing for 10 minutes. There's no check ball, so you don't really get a rest. And the one important thing that every player just needs to know if you play 3x3, you can't wait for the referee. You just can't look up and wait for a foul. There's just no way. And I think what happened was you players started to realize, okay, look, we're in this. We just got to play. We just got to play to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
And then you saw some of the shooting. I mean, some of the shooting on the female team were incredible. They were knocking down shots left, right, and center. And I think 3x3 also forces you to become confident in your shot. There's no room for you to just hang fire. There's only 12 seconds. So the shot clock is half what you're used to, essentially. And in 12 seconds, okay, that's not a long time to try and get a shot up. So, and every time you hear that shot clock buzzer going, it's just the most annoying thing in the world. So, so as a player, you've got to, if you've got space, you've got to hit that shot. And you can see it after day one. You can see the other days, the teams doing that way more confident in their shots, way more confident building chemistry as a team. There's a long way to go, but amazing signs, like definitely great signs from both teams for sure.
No, I completely agree. I mean, this is, to go from 6-9 and a 522 scores to Israel and France, respectively. Though I like the fact, kept Israel to 9 points.
Yeah,
could be something, could be nothing. That strikes me as something.
Yeah. I mean, you have to play. You have to be great at offense. You're playing for 21 points. You're playing season ones, but if your D isn't on point, you're dead. Like you're dead. Like help D and knowing when to switch, and just. I mean, literally, you're pretty much having to switch all the time anyway because they set one. Like every play is like a screen or a slip or whatever it might be, and it's crazy. It can be mayhem on the court, and so yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's a really good observation, actually. Like the fact that they held them to such low points is a really good sign.
And that was the same story the next day. Held France to 10 and Israel to 8 in the 10-8 win. So, big improvements looking day by day. And then by Wednesday, by yesterday, putting up 16 and 17 points respectively in the two games. No, 17 points in against Israel.
But that's what happens though, because you get into the flow. Like you get into the flow, and I actually see this in the tournaments that I run as well. Like when they first start playing, when teams first start playing, they'll battle it out, they'll win. It'll be very low scoring, and as the day progresses, you'll get way more points because they become way more confident on the court. The ball is different as well. So the ball is a size 6 but weight of a 7.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so even the ball is different. So that's why when you see like layup lines and shots, and you're like, and they see maybe a couple of air balls or whatever, like, they're literally just getting used to the ball itself, let alone the whole game. I had an amazing time last summer when I went to a court in East London with Temi, and we put up some nets, and I gave Temi a 3-on-3 ball. It was the first time she played with one, and I mean, she's a pro, right? So it didn't take her very long to get into it, but you do like, the feel and the shape of the ball, like it's slightly different from a regular basketball. The ridges are more like indented into the ball itself, and it's small, but it's heavy as a 7, as a weight of a 7. So
is it a bit like those tarmac, if you know the ones like the tarmac street balls?
A little bit like them, but they feel nicer.
Okay.
And they're really good quality. Like when you get like a really nice like Wilson game ball, like those things are like super nice. And it's funny because people will see them and they're really iconic because they're kind of like that yellow and blue, or
yellow and blue,
or purple, or whatever it is, depending on what your colors like, whether you're colorblind or not. But they're really amazing to play with. And actually what happens is, what I found is that people will initially not want to play with them. So I'll take one out of my bag because I'm obviously always carrying one around, and naturally, and then someone will be like, "Nah, I don't want to play with that." But then after a while, we'll start shooting around with it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool, yeah," and they like it. And it's a bit smaller, so it's kind of like skills and dribbling makes the game a bit faster. But it's actually really nice to shoot. It's great to shoot. So yeah, it's definitely worth getting one if you haven't, or at least playing with one if you haven't tried it yet.
There you go. I need to check this out, because anything that can help me improve anything, or just enjoy having fun, get involved. Yeah. All right, Mr. Dyan, I am so grateful for your time today. Just obviously, do you want to, if you got anything that you'd like to plug and let the good people know about?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh God, loads. So I'll keep it short. So first things first is just feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Martin Dyan on Twitter, where you just hear me banging on about 3x3 basketball all the time, and hopefully some behind the scenes stuff for various different things. I'll be at the Bristol University College courts, which has been 6-7 months in the planning now, and we're launching this weekend. So you'll see loads of shots from that. And then obviously, like, please follow London Warriors. It's London Warriors 3x3 on Instagram, and that's the London Warriors teams, and we'll be entering all the events this summer. So we'll be at, we were at Red Bull, we'll be at Ball Out in London, Essex, and Birmingham. And then, of course, without a shadow of doubt, you need to follow the GG3x3 on Instagram and Facebook at the GG3x3. And that is essentially for everything leading up to the tournament, the GG3x3 tournament, which will be at the University of East London on the 22nd of August. And that is going to be ridiculous. That event, I went to the UEL yesterday, and it's going to be phenomenal. We've got men's elite, men's challenge, women's and wheelchair category this year. And we've got caterers outside, DJs, some surprise entertainment, a crazy dunk contest. Yeah. So, yeah, you should definitely follow all of those.
My friend, it has been far too long. Thank you so much for getting involved with us today. And absolute best of luck with that. We will be, this is another thing we're going to add to the Kaz and Daz show. We're going to keep an eye on all your 3-on-3 or 3x3 happenings over the summer.
Thank you for everything that you do for the basketball community. For both you and Kaz, like, it's amazing what you do. I'm honored to be on this, so thank you very much. I've seen it and I'm like, how does someone get on there?
Oh, there you go.
So thank you for inviting me on, and of course, hopefully, I will see you on the 22nd.
Let's do that. Let's make that happen.
Definitely.
Kaz. Let's get Kaz involved. All right.
Exactly.
Dyan, thanks so much. Make sure that you follow him on all the social medias and the 3-on-3, 3x3, all that good stuff. Check it out.